You're listening to an AppleViz podcast. Hello and welcome. My name is Thomas Donville, also known as Anonymous. Now, I know this is not going to be for everybody, but this is definitely going to make some people happy out there. This is an iOS app called Aiko, or simply spelled out AIKO, which I think stands for Artificial Intelligence, KO, so AIKO. Not only is it free, but it's totally unlimited, and meaning you can use it as many times as you want. So what is this Aiko, and what does it do for me? Essentially, what this will do, it will take any type of audio and transcribe it into text, so speech to text. So as you can imagine, so anything you need to transcribe or transfer over to text, and that it could be a number of things why you would want to use this. And to top of the list that I can think of is for those that are in school that need your professor or your teacher. So they're doing a lecture or a conversation in the classroom, and you need that translated into text so you can to a readable form. If you are at work, maybe you have meetings, or if you attended seminars or conventions that you have recorded, and once again, you want to be able to put that down onto text form. This is going to be for you. Now, what makes Aiko stand out compared to many other speech-to-text transcription out there is OpenAI technology. Yes, you have heard that term quite a bit lately, OpenAI. Yes, it's the same company that makes OpenAI GPT that you've heard about. There are many things that OpenAI offers, and one of those is called OpenAI Whisper. And Whisper is the technology that OpenAI is used for artificial intelligence to convert audio to text. So you can imagine the accuracy is really great and awesome in using the Whisper technology. Not only that, but it supports over 100 different languages, which is amazing and astounding in a single app. And to top all of that, it's all done on your device. Yes, you heard that right. There is no transferring over to servers or anything like that. It is all done processing on your device. So in my case, my iPhone is doing all the work and doing the transformation from speech to text. There are other things I could think of that I thought this is quite interesting. For anyone that is hard of hearing, maybe that are deaf, and you want to be able to see some of what's being spoken at those particular audio, you can so they can use their braille display to read along. Now, it's going to be quite messy, and I'll show you some of the cons at the end of this podcast, but nonetheless, it will work for those that are thinking, and the way I am, about deafblind users being able to transcribe something from audio to text. I also can see this being used in a way that if you have a audio that is spoken in a different language, yes, you can have that transcribed, put into text in English. So I thought, wow, that's another angle to do it too. But most of all, it is just another tool. If you ever need something like this, you'll know what to pull out and install on your device to use when you need in those moments. All right, so let's take a look at Aiko. Aiko is a very simple, minimalistic app. There isn't much to it, and that is also the beautiful part about the app. It is so minimalistic and easy to understand, and I'm going to go through the whole process. I'm going to do two ways. I am going to show you how to grab an audio from a service of choice, and then we will be able to do a record right on the app itself. So yes, you can use this to record a meeting or conversation or something you just want to jot down. Although I probably wouldn't do that. I'd probably use something different like audio memo myself. Okay, so let's get going. Let's head over to the iPhone here and get Aiko up.
Aiko. Double tap to open.
We're going to do just that. So one finger double tap to open the app itself.
Aiko. Settings. Button.
So the first place it's going to head you into is the settings. Settings is located at the top left. There is not much in the settings itself. I'll show you a few pointers and a couple things you might be interested in. But other than that, it's one of those you set and you're done. So let's double tap that.
Sheet grabber. Button. Double tap to expand the sheet.
So let's swipe to the right.
Double tap to dismiss pop-up window. Button. Close. Button. Audio language. Auto detect. Button.
Right now, audio language is automatically in auto mode. So I'm not sure why you would change that unless you're having some issues. You want to pick out, hey, it is this particular language. Maybe it's not doing it right. But however, it is automatic. So that means it'll detect the language automatically, what to transcribe based on the language that it hears.
Translate to English. Switch button. On. Double tap to toggle setting.
Now, yours may be set to off on this. I went ahead and double tapped this with one finger and turned it on. So no matter what language it hears, it's going to transcribe it to English. So that's the portion I was telling you about. It can convert from other language to English. So if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and double tap to turn that on. Otherwise, if you want to leave it the way it is from the language that it detects, it'll just write it in the language it detect back into text. So that'll be up to you.
Show timestamps. Switch button. Off. Double tap to toggle setting.
This is set to off, and if timestamps is really important to you to see immediately, then you can go ahead and double tap that on. It is not, and it does not affect if you want timestamp to when you get to the portion where you want to save it or export it. There is the option to have timestamp in that conversation. But for appearance-wise, on the screen after it translates, it will show you timestamp if that's something you want to do. It'll look a little messy. I wouldn't recommend it unless you highly need it now. Otherwise, just wait until we can export the file into timestamp format.
Feedback and support. Button.
These are the various things on the app. So you got your feedback. Obviously, you can just double tap that to submit your feedbacks and suggestions. And then the next two items.
Tips. Button. FAQ. Button. Link.
Our advice, frequently asked questions, and things like that. If you're interested in doing that, you can double tap that and it'll take you to the web page of frequently asked questions and tips.
Website. Button.
Take you directly to the website, and the rest below here are just app developer information and version. So I'm going to go to the top here with 4 fingers, tap at the top.
Sheet grabber. Button.
Go to the right.
Double tap to dismiss pop-up window. Button.
And double tap to dismiss.
Settings. Button.
And then we'll back out to the main screen. Okay, so let me show you the main screen interface. As I mentioned before, it's very minimalistic. There isn't much to show. So let's go to the right.
Aiko. Heading. Import audio. Button. Pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
So that's pretty obvious there. That is to import the audio. And I will be showing you how to use this. And it will be using the file browser. And as you know, the file browser is the built-in iOS app on your device that allow you to access the various services like your iCloud, Microsoft OneDrive, Google Drive, Dropbox, and things like that.
Open button.
Not sure why they have 2 of these, but they both do the same thing here.
Record button.
And lastly, we have the record button. Now, as I mentioned before, if you use the record button, that actually records right now, and I'll be showing that to you in a moment as well. Let's go back left here.
Open button.
Let's do that. I'm going to do a demonstration. I have a audio of a professor, and that is in a class. I'm going to use him as an example so you can see how this works. So 1 finger double tap to open.
Documents. Back button.
Now, hopefully you have some experience with the file browser app itself. And typically, it will start where you left off using the file browser in the previous. Now, I know immediately it's in my OneDrive, just hearing the response of the back button there. I'm going to double tap the back button, and that's at the top left until I get to the very first screen of the file browser screen.
Documents, back button. Files, OneDrive, back button. OneDrive, browse, back button. Browse, cancel, button.
Until you get to the cancel button. You know that you're there. If you hear the cancel, you're at the very first screen. So as I go to the right here,
browse, heading, more, button, search field, dictate, button.
Until I get to the location button.
Locations, button, heading, expanded, double tap to collapse, actions available.
So it's already expanded. If it's not expanded, one finger double tap and I'll expand that for you.
iCloud Drive, button.
This is where you find all your services, your OneDrive, your Dropbox, the Google Drive, and things like that. I am just going to go to my iCloud here, double tap that.
So audio memos, yesterday one item, folder, button, actions available.
There's my audio memo folder. So I'm using audio memo app, and that is where I will have all my audio recordings. So let's do one finger double tap on that.
Professor lecture sample, yesterday 4.3 meters B, audio, actions available.
Okay, so that's the one I want to use. One finger double tap on that.
Settings, dimmed, button.
Now let's go to the right and see what we have on the screen.
In progress. Stop, button. Transcribing. This may take a while. Do not leave the screen.
Okay, so it's in the process of transcribing, and you cannot leave this screen. So that is meaning...
I teach at Emory University in Atlanta.
There we go.
And
So the transcription is done, but the point I was wanting to make there is that while it's processing and transcribing, you can't leave the screen. Meaning, unfortunately, you won't be able to leave here and go check your emails and things like that. You have to put your device down and wait for the result to come back. And the transcription just depends how long your audio is. Of course, that is going to determine how long the transcription takes. So the longer the audio, then the longer it takes to transcribe. And as I mentioned before, it's unlimited, which is absolutely phenomenal. I haven't seen that anywhere before like that. And knowing all that, let's go to the top here.
Settings, button.
You're going to see the similar screen as we saw in the home screen. Yes, everything looks about the same with some additional things on the screen. So if you go to the right.
Transcription.
Go to the right.
English.
It detected English. So here's the English format.
Copy, button.
Now you have the option to do several things here. The first up is copy. So if you want to copy what it has transcribed, you just double tap that and it'll be put into the iOS clipboard. And from the clipboard, you can access it through from anything else. So if you want to get your notes out, or if you want to get your mail out, or whatever that is that you want to paste it back to, that's what the copy is for. Let's go to the right.
Export, button, pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
We'll be coming back to that in a moment. Export is exactly that. This is where we are able to export it to different formats that is available for you, on top of being able to save the audio file itself. Now, obviously, we won't be doing that in this case, but let me finish this interface and we'll come back to that.
Import audio, button, pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
Essentially, if you wanted to start over and you want to import a new audio to transcribe, that is the area you go to. Now, I want to let you know, make sure that you're completely done here first and you got everything saved that you need, because once you hit that button and redo the process of importing a new audio, everything that you have done previously will be erased. There will be no history. There will be no way of retrieving that, nothing. So once it's done, it's cleared, and you're on to the next transcription. Let's go to the right.
Good morning, everybody.
This is where the transcription lives. So I can get a sneak peek of what the audio said, and I'll just have it read a few lines here so you can hear for yourself how remarkable the transcription is.
I'm Rich Fryer. I teach at Emory University in Atlanta, and I am delighted to be with you to talk about generic federal civil procedure for the bar exam. In fact, we're going to be together for 2 days talking about civil procedure. Now, think about that. 2 days of civil procedure, what's that mean?
We'll stop there. That is pretty remarkable. So that is what you are going to be copying or exporting. And speaking of export, let's go back to the export.
Export. Button. Pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
Let's do one finger double tap on export.
Export as.
Now, you have different formats to choose from, and I'll try to do my best to explain all of these to you. As you go to the right,
Text. Button.
that was the easiest one. So if you want to export this as pure text, that's the one we want to use. So double tap that, and that will save it as a text format. Let's go to the right here.
JSON. Button.
Now, these other formats here that you hear are going to be various ways that transfer what you hear to text and text to that format. So JSON, for example, will include timeframes, or timestamps, I should say. So if you're interested in having timestamps in with your conversation, these other formats are for you. So JSON is one of those.
CSV.
CSV, you probably heard of that. Comma separator values is also the same thing. One thing I will tell you about this that I've learned about CSV is that's interesting because not only does it export as a timestamp and the conversation that is translated, but I was able to import that into my Microsoft Excel, and it was pretty kind of cool because the left side or the first column is the timestamp and the second column is the actual transcription. Interesting.
WebVTT, subtitles, button. SRT, subtitles, button. Share, button.
So you have all those different kind of formats, and then lastly is your share button. The share button is something that you can export out. So if you want to do a share sheet, that is where I can send it to your mail, messages, or to other apps on your iOS. So that might be of interest for you there as well. Meaning that I could probably export this out to notes and things like that without having to save it. It'll just go directly to the Notes app. Anywho, let's go to the right.
Dismiss context menu, button.
This is where I can dismiss everything, but we don't want to dismiss it. We want to make sure we save it. So as I mentioned before, let's go back to the text option.
WebVTT, CSV, JSON, button. Text, button.
And let's double tap that.
iCloud Drive, back button.
And this is where it goes back to the file browser. You'll have to find the place where you want to put it. And so once you found a location that you want to save it, at the top right,
Move, button.
is the Move button. I realize that's not very obvious, and I wish it had like a Save button or whatever it is, but this is how this works in the file browser. You double tap a Move, and that'll save that in the folder that you told it to save it to. So I'll just double tap Move.
Move, settings, button.
And then we're back to settings, and that is, when it has been completed. Simple as that. There's not much to show you here. Now, as I promised, I'm going to do the record option, and I'm going to show you a couple things you can do within that as well. Let's go to the right.
Transcription, English, copy, export, button, import audio, button, pop-up button, double tap to activate the picker.
Now, like I said before, we got to make sure that you got everything done, and we did. I export the text, so I'm all good with that. I already have the original audio, so there's nothing to worry about that. So I'm going to do one finger double tap on that.
Open file, button.
Now it's going to show you a couple things. You got open files.
Record audio, button.
Or record audio. Yes, this is the same thing as we saw in the main screen where it had the record button. Because we already ran a transcription is why we're seeing something a little bit different. Otherwise, if you open up the app, again, you're going to notice that it went back to the original format as I originally was going over the interface, and we'll just go down to the record button. Once you double tap on the record, you are immediately being recorded. And one thing I noticed is that it's going to use the phone speakers for voiceover. I think it kicks you out of Bluetooth just to let you know, so you're not using your Bluetooth to record, unless I don't know how it would work if you have it manually inserted at the bottom where the lightning port is. It might work with that way. However, it's going to be using your microphone on your iPhone. So once I double tap that, we're in recording mode. So let's do that.
Double tap to dismiss pop-up window, button.
All right, so it's now recording. And so we can dismiss this at any time. I'll show you what it looks like. There isn't much on the screen for us to really worry about, but I'll show you what it looks like.
Close. Button. Mic and signal meter fill. Image. A red logo on a black background. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 20 seconds.
So it tells us it's 20 seconds into the recording.
Recording your microphone. Done. Button.
That's the done button I'm looking for. The easiest way to get to that done button is to do a 4-finger tap at the bottom half of the screen. If you do that, you'll go directly to the done button. So when we're done with the recording, we'll do 1-finger double tap.
Settings. Dimmed. Button. In progress.
And now it's in progress of transcribing what we've just done. It shouldn't take too long and it should be quick.
65%.
As the progress goes there, you'll be able to see what the progress is if you are stationary on that element.
Copy. Button.
And then we're back here. The transcription is done. So you get the same format or the same interface that we saw before. We have the copy option. Let's go to the right.
Export. Button. Import audio. Button. Pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
And remember that option is when you're done. Let's go to the right.
All right, so it's now recording and so we can dismiss this at any time. I'll show you what it looks like. There isn't much on the screen for us to really worry about, but I'll show you what it looks like. So it tells us it's 20 seconds into the recording. That's the done button I'm looking for. The easiest way to get to that done button is to do a 4-finger tap at the bottom half of the screen. If you do that, you'll go directly to the done button. So when we're done with the recording, we'll do 1-finger double tap.
And that's it. It's pretty simple, right? Now let me show you something here. Now something's going to be a little different in the export area. So let's go to the export.
Export. Button. Pop-up button. Double tap to activate the picker.
Let's go in here, 1-finger double tap.
Export as.
Now, the top half is the exact same thing we had before, and that is to save as in different formats. So I'll go through that slowly here.
Text. Button. JSON. Button. CSV. Button. WebVTT. Subtitles. Button. SRT. Subtitles. Button. Save.
Now, this is a new area. We have the save area. Let's go to the right.
Recording. Button.
Aha. If you want to keep that recording, the audio that we just recorded, you double tap that and that'll allow you to save the actual audio file. And if you are wondering, it's going to be saved as a WAV file, which is absolutely awesome. That means it's lossless, no compression. So if you want to save that, that will save it to somewhere in the file browser of choice. And then plus you can come back and then export it by file type. So if you want to have the text and audio, you can do that.
Share. Button.
And there's your share button.
Dismiss context menu. Button.
And there's your dismiss button. So I'll double tap dismiss.
Settings. Button.
And that's pretty much it for the interface of Aiko. And as I mentioned before, it's just simple. It's very simple, minimalistic, and true to what you need without all the bloatware and things like that. The other thing that's really great about Aiko is completely free. There is no in-app purchases, nothing. As I mentioned before, it is unlimited. Now, let's talk about some of the cons as I promised you that I would. Some of the things that you need to know about the cons. First, you have to have iOS 16.4 and above. Yep, you'll have to have the latest, greatest iOS in order to use this iOS app. The other thing is that it is big. And what I mean, when you download it, it is a whopping almost 3 gig in size. It's big because it's all being done on your device without having to go to a server out there and come back and etc. So it's going to be big. If it's something that you can have around and you're going to be using quite a bit, then that's something you will need to think about. If it's something you're not going to use very often and you need that space, well, you may be able to download it at a different time or manage some space for allocating for the Aiko. It is perfect for things like you want to transcribe on a conversation you are dictating, or if it's a seminar or a meeting, or in this case, it was a lecture. That's perfect, okay? But the only thing I don't like yet, and soon to be improved, is that when you save it as text, it saves it as text. It's just one big lump, and I mean one big lump. There is no formatting whatsoever, no punctuation whatsoever, anything like that. So you're getting pure raw text. Meaning, if you want to take something and put it in a transcription for a lecture or even a podcast, I am afraid to tell you that it's not going to be ideal for that unless you want to spend a lot of time formatting it and punctuating everything where it needs to be. However, I did read that in their future, they are going to implement different speakers format, and that is going to be beautiful. What does that mean? It means that it will be able to detect speaker to different speaker. So it'll say speaker 1 said da 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 da, speaker 2 says da 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 da. So it looks like it's coming from each of the person. I don't know if they'll ever get the punctuation part done, but that's just something to think about. Most of the transcription services I see out there do the same thing as this one. It's just raw. So you'll have to massage and do a lot of work on your part to make it usable if you want to use that as a transcription for other people. I hope that makes sense. The timestamp it does support, and it does it very well. I don't know how it breaks it up. I know it's every so many seconds, it'll just say timestamp, and then you'll see a little bit of little text in there, and then timestamp again. So there's going to be a lot of breaking up of timestamp to read just a small snippet of what they're saying. So if you've never seen anything like that, you are going to be in for a treat. You'll see what I mean. It's a little bit ugly. However, this is absolutely perfect and beautiful for being able to take something from audio to speech. As I mentioned before, this is going to be great if I need a written form of it for me to evaluate and read, or to give someone else that knows that there is no formatting, just to be aware of that. Great for deafblind users that want to probably on a braille display. Also, any audio in other languages, just put it into English and things like that. So, as I mentioned up on the top of the podcast, it isn't for everyone, but for those that is going to be interested in, are going to absolutely love Aiko. And I can see some of the people saying, wow, this is going to be great. I love this. And I hope it works out for you. I was intrigued and interested that it's using the OpenAI Whisper technology, so I know it's going to do a pretty decent job in terms of transcription. And one last remark I want to make, this is available for Mac users as well. Aiko is also available on the Mac. So I hope that you find this useful and you'll be able to use it in one form or another that will help you from taking something from audio to text. My name is Thomas Donville, also known as Anonymous. Until next time, bye-bye.
This AppleVis podcast has been brought to you by the community of AppleVis.com for the latest in resources and tips and tricks to get you the best experience from your Apple device. Visit www.applevis.com.